150 years later, the burden came to Nahum. God said, time's up. They're not repenting. They've gotten worse and worse. They have become a violent scourge upon the land. And so the book of Nahum, as we had mentioned, is arguably the single darkest book in all of the Bible. Nahum, there's no room for repentance. It is just simply a verdict of vengeance. The vision and then the vindication. God's going to pay up the accounts. You're past due, and I'm coming to collect. And he would destroy Assyria. Well, that's the first two, Jonah and Nahum. They stand apart from the other prophets because they don't have anything to do with Israel or Judah. They have to do with Syria. Now, today we look at Habakkuk. Here's the next one that falls in line. That Babylon was the conquering power over Assyria. Now, Babylon is ruling the world. And Babylon, they themselves have made terrible mistakes and have become a violent people and have abused the Israelites. Now, when Sennacherib left Jerusalem, went back to Assyria, was assassinated, the Jews in Jerusalem were pretty much left to themselves. And they didn't have a lot of trouble like they did before with the Assyrians. The Babylonians are going to come in and they will do similar. They will reinstate tribute, taxes, etc. The Jews hate the Babylonians. They despised and feared the Assyrians. They just had a deep, hot hate for the Babylonians. And that's how this book is going to open up here, is that here's another burden. Notice the burden of Nahum, and now Habakkuk begins the burden which the prophet Habakkuk saw. This is not going to be a pleasant thing. It's not going to be pleasant for the Jews. The Jews, as we have known since the time of Christ, what they wanted was a Messiah to come and wipe out the Romans. That's in a similar situation. That's what Habakkuk is wanting. God, have you seen what's been going on here? We need to save our people here now. And so they're looking for someone to save Israel. But as far as God is concerned, Judah has been so unfaithful, they're not going to be delivered. They're going to be spanked pretty hard. They're going to be disciplined. They're actually going to be invaded and captured. And Jeremiah would talk about that. Ezekiel would talk about that. These are going to be hard times for the people of Judah, and they don't realize it yet. And so when Habakkuk realizes what God is going to do, he flips his lid. Now, from there, we'll start reading here and see exactly this dynamic and how it's going on. Babylon would fall about 606 BC. That would be the first invasion. I'd say Babylon fall. First invasion of Judah. And it would go from 606 down to about 536. There was the war in 612 where they fell. Babylon was going down. They took Israel with them. Look at verse 1. The burden which the prophet Habakkuk saw. The prophet said, O Lord, how long shall I cry and you will not hear? Every cry out to you, violence, and you will not save. Why do you show me iniquity and cause me to see trouble? For plundering and violence are before me. There is a strife, and contention arises. Therefore the law is powerless, and justice never goes forth. For the wicked surround the righteous, therefore perverse judgment proceeds. Now, when he speaks of the law here in verse 4, the law is powerless. This is the law of Moses. We all have followed this law. And he says, look around. He said, it's just falling apart. And there's no one here to get it back together. There's no one here to extract or exact the justice that is needed on all of the unfaithful, ungodly, violent, wicked things that are happening by the hand of the Babylonians. Well, no, he didn't say Babylonians. It was among themselves. Now, this is this interesting thing here, is that when Israel had been under siege by the Assyrians back in 722, about a little over 100 years earlier, the Assyrians just took them, and they're gone. And you may remember that lesson shortly after I came. The 10 lost tribes, they were taken by Assyria, replaced by the Sumerians and others that were in Assyria. And those tribes are gone. They're lost. They never came back, ever came back. What was left was Judah. Now here is the kingdom of Judah, being the tribe of Judah and Benjamin. Sennacherib with the Assyrians have laid siege to those cities and have conquered every one of them except Jerusalem. And then God stops him right there. Sennacherib leaves, goes back. He's assassinated by his sons, and they've left Jerusalem alone. Well, what happens here in Jerusalem and the remaining people there in the kingdom of Judah? They all began to self-serve. They began to self-rule. They began to develop their own type of rule. They had turned their back on the law of Moses, and they had developed their own hierarchy of what is right and what is wrong and who was in charge and who wasn't. And this is what Habakkuk is talking about. He said, my people, they've just gone nuts. The injustice and the violence, all of this that is going on, it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. One of the interesting things that people might observe throughout history, whatever the time is that when a culture is controlled by another dominant culture, that inferior or smaller culture keeps its nose clean. It toes the line because they're afraid of the greater power. But once that greater power is defeated by someone else and now leave the land for their own people to do whatever they want to do, they develop their power. This is a very interesting study. I know it can be just really boring to many people, but in our more modern time, the British Empire, in that age of colonialism, when the European powers, primarily Britain, France, Spain, Portugal, and Germany to some extent, but they were all looking for lands to colonize and claim for their own. Well, they would go, long ways, get in their ships and go around the world, and they would colonize this land, put a flag in the ground and say, we now claim this for the king or the queen. So this is ours. And they did that so that they could extract whatever commodities, valuables that were in that land, the trade, whatever. But they weren't interested in living there. They just wanted to be in control. And then when they were distracted with something else, and they didn't have the manpower or will to send their people back down to India or South Africa or the Dutch West Indies or the South America and the Falklands or wherever it may be, those people who were native, they eventually looked around and said, okay, all right, I guess we get to rule ourselves now. And that's what they did. And here with Jerusalem, they looked around, the Assyrians are gone. Wow, okay, well, okay, we can take a breather here now. We can do what we want to do. And I really wish I knew why this was the case, but it is so often the case with human beings. When people have been abused, when they have been exploited, when they have been murdered by another party, and that party is gone, and the people are left to themselves, what will they do to their fellow man? They'll do the same thing. Everyone scrambles for power, position, and then they will repeat the same mistake of exploitation, abuse, tribute, forcing people to serve them. It is the strangest study some of you have made, and I know for most of the world today it's not a very politically correct thing to do, but to see how slavery has become a major part of human civilization from the very beginning. And when a people are freed, they turn around and enslave each other. It's just a bizarre thing. Now, in a similar fashion, Habakkuk is in that state right now. The Assyrians are gone. And he said, Lord, when are you going to do something with our people here? We are out of control. And so here's his, pardon me, I'll come back to that here in just a minute. Here's his question. How long will you ignore your people's violence and injustice? And in verse 5, we'll close it. Here's God's reply. He says, look among the nations and watch and be utterly astounded. This is just going to knock your socks off. For I will work a work in your days, which you would not believe, though it were told you. If someone told you, you would say, no way. This is not going to happen. That can't be. He said, verse 6, for indeed I am raising up the Chaldeans, a bitter and hasty nation, which marches through the breadth of the earth to possess dwelling places that are not theirs. It's like, how is this an improvement over the Assyrians? God is going to just do the same thing again. He said, yeah, this is what's happened here. But I'm raising up the Chaldeans, a bitter and hasty nation. And then we're going to march through. And they're going to take land that's not theirs. And this is going to be a real difficult episode in your national history. Rodney? Correct. Babylonians, Chaldeans are synonymous. Chaldea was the area. Babylon was the nation. That's them. Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Right. There. So it's as if Habakkuk is saying, what? You're not helping this situation. We thought we got rid of the Assyrians. Now you're going to make it even worse. Well, what's happened between the Assyrians and the Chaldeans that God observes about his own people? What is he seeing here? Just think about this for a moment. We can begin to fit the pieces into the puzzle and now understand why God is doing what he is doing. He raises nations up and brings nations down, but what's the reason? Why? Just think about it for a moment. Well, once the Assyrians were stopped at the gate of Jerusalem, and God so did that and told him and the Jews they're not going to go any further. Going to send them back, and they'll go back to their demise. And that's exactly what they did. Wouldn't this be a wonderful opportunity for God's people to now find peace? And they go, now we can worship our God in peace, and we can raise our families in the way of the Lord through the law of Moses, and we can be left alone to be the disciples of God, the children of God, the wonderful things that have been promised to us in his kingdom that Judea now can become. They've had to deal with Egypt, they've had to deal with Assyria, but now they are free to blossom as the people that God had always intended them to be. Great opportunity. What happened? They turned, John, Donna?
Well, unfortunately, God knows our hearts. He knew they were bowed their heads and stuff, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Still wanted to,
At least he's going to give them a chance. And so is Habakkuk telling God something that he's not been aware of before? Of course not. God is leaving the people here to their own devices. Let's just see how they handle this. See how they handle freedom. You know, we all know, just individually and collectively, people oftentimes don't have the maturity or the experience or the foresight to be able to handle freedom. There's a lot of responsibility and consequence that comes with freedom of choice, and not everyone is able to make the right decisions, do the right things, and treat others as the way that they should, either through paranoia or jealousy or whatever it may be. And they failed miserably, and Habakkuk is saying, look at your people. Look at what they're doing to each other. Do something about this. This is getting out of hand. John?
I always find it interesting. Yeah, he's pleading to God. Look what's going on here. We got to do something. You got to do something. Wait a second. That's not what I meant. I don't want you to do that.
Yeah, he'll get
what
that.
I think is right.
That's right. He'll get that. He'll go, whoa, 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 whoa. We're taking this a little too far here. You're kidding me. The Chaldeans, this bitter and hasty nation, that can't be true. And that is the basic setup for this book. It's this conversation between man and God. God did not instigate this conversation, man did. And the reason for this conversation is man, Habakkuk's, discussed with his own people. God has dealt with these kinds of people for their entire history. So this is nothing new to God, but Habakkuk is now in this position of he is incensed. And an impression I get with Habakkuk is similar to Hosea. You remember when Hosea was told to take a wife of the harlots? And the reason for that was so that Hosea could understand firsthand what it would be like to have an unfaithful wife, where Israel had been constantly unfaithful to God, going after the various pagan gods and idols of the land of Canaan. And it hurt God every time. And he wanted man, whoever the man would be, to bring this message. He wanted him to feel it, him to understand it. And so Hosea was chosen to take that message. And he knew it better than any man that walked on the earth, the heartache and the desperation of having your love leave you. And so he was the man who was so qualified to do that. Habakkuk, in a similar fashion, Habakkuk is going to experience the feeling that God has when he delivers his people, but they do not follow him. They just go their own way, their own devices. Delivering a person from certain death, a child from certain death, or ruination. The child doesn't realize it, and then when they're finally released from prison or an abduction or whatever it may be, it doesn't matter. Rather than reconciling with the parent and thanking them for their help and their deliverance, they go their own way and they do their own thing. There's no gratitude. There's no real maturity. So Habakkuk is going to flip here. So God says, I'm on it already, Habakkuk. This isn't gotten past me. He said, I'm raising this nation up, a bitter and hasty nation who marches through the breadth of the earth, verse 6, to possess dwelling places that are not theirs. They are terrible and dreadful. Their judgment and their dignity proceed from themselves. They are the authors of what is right and wrong and what is proper. Their horses also are swifter than leopards and more fierce than any wolves. If you were a foot soldier and you were just attacked by a company of horse soldiers, a cavalry that's coming after you with swords and spears, you're dead. You just have no way to escape them. You can't outrun the horse, and how are you going to hide from it? And they are on this mission of total destruction. And their horses are so swift, there's no animal that can run faster, that can outrun it, and they're more fierce. Middle of verse 8, their charges charge ahead. Their cavalry comes from afar. They fly as the eagle that hastens to eat. Interesting picture here is that initially on the surface, it might seem like, well, Babylon, this is a formidable nation of men, and there's a formidable army. And he's saying, you're just seeing part of it. Once the battle starts, these horses fly in like eagles from afar. They just come in where did they come from? It just exponentially grows and now becomes impossible, the numbers. That Babylon this is not even a fair fight, not even close to it. They fly as the eagle that hastens to eat. They're hungry. An animal that plays with a toy compared to an animal that is starving and a piece of food has been thrown out to them, a whole different kind of behavior in that. These eagles, quote unquote, the horses, the army from Babylon, they don't come out here just to engage in some kind of athletic contest ability to see who is a superior soldier. No, God says they're hungry. And when they're hungry, you better get out of the way because they're coming to eat. And when they come to eat, you don't have much chance here in what they are wanting to do and how they're doing this. Verse 9, they all come for violence. Their faces are set like the east wind. They've come for violence. And if you fellas have ever played organized football or something, I know some of you have, and you may remember. You remember when you're maybe playing Pop Warner or something like that? It was just fun. It was just fun. You get out there, and let's say, they had you all equipment up where you can't really hurt yourself because big helmets and pads and everything like that. And then somewhere along the season, or as you progress it, then one day you come to meet a team, and this team is all painted up, and this team is growling and yelling, and they're stomping at the dirt like a bull in a ring at a bullfight ready to go. And to a man, every one of these guys has a scowl on their face, and they're yelling at you, and they're doing not just trash talk, but they're in your face, and they're saying, "Arr!" They start, barking like dogs. We're going to have you for supper. That tends to put a little fear in the heart of a 6-year-old Pop Warner. Okay, all right, you better get in tough if you're going to fight this, because this team over here is not here to just beat you. They want you to be completely finished, that you'll never play another game again in your life. It's in a manner like that. If you've ever been in a position like that, you get out on the court. I got out on the court with some guys one time. We're all fun guys, cops are like that. And then 2 NBA stars came out on the other team. Oh boy, okay. 6'8", 6'9", I'm right, they're all starting thinking, we don't have a chance. Let's don't even try to compete with them. Let's just play. Matter of fact, get the ball, just feed them the ball. Let them have it. Show us what you got. You don't even belong on the same court or field with something like that. Here's a situation where the intimidation is so powerful that the Chaldeans are coming to eat, and they're coming to destroy, and they have a whole different mindset than what you have. They've come for violence, verse 9. Their faces are set like the east wind. They gather captives like sand. They scoff at kings, and princes are scorned by them. They deride every stronghold, for they heap up mounds of earth and seize it. Whatever the stronghold is, they just build a ramp, build up the ground, build up a mound, walk up that mound and go in and take it. The picture of Masada that we showed a few months ago, where the Romans had built that ramp, it's still there. You could build that ramp to go up and lay siege to Masada that Herod thought would be impregnable. It's still there. That's what they do. And the horrible thing for the people in Nineveh that we have studied, when they looked out there for over 2 years and watched the Babylonians begin to build a siege wall, there's nothing they can do to go out there and stop it. It's coming, and it's getting, and then with the help of the river, it's just they can't stop it. It's a foregone conclusion, and they have no way to escape, no way to get out of that. Interesting how correct.
To be bad. In First Ephesus, they had their own judgment, their own way. And, the New King James Version says, look, come from New Version says, watch. And I think that's a more intense word. Watch what I am going to do. I'm going to use this in judgment. But then I'm going to judge them for the cruelty.
Right. He'll come back and he won't let Babylon off the hook.
But I think the whole point is, he doesn't make that wicked the way they are. He uses them.
That's right. That's right. That's why he identifies to Habakkuk, they are already a bitter and hasty nation. These are bad people, and he knows that, and he's going to use them for his purpose. Assyrians likewise, and that's right. He does not change their nature. He uses their position for his own purpose. The one exception to that rule, I think, might possibly be, one would be Egypt, when Joseph came and the Pharaoh listened to Joseph and then made Joseph the second in command. There's one exception. The other one may be here with Nineveh, when Jonah was sent with the message to repent, and they did repent. There are two occasions there where world powers momentarily change, but they didn't stay that way. Another generation came, and then they're right back to where they were. And that's it would be ideal if they would change and always stay changed. But that's right. God used these nations. That was the lesson he gave to Nebuchadnezzar, that I'll raise them up, I'll bring them down. Nebuchadnezzar said, I got it. I get it now. That we, if we're going to survive, we're going to have to pledge our allegiance to Jehovah, to God. And those who don't will be used and then destroyed. Barry? Yeah. Correct. Correct.
Somebody was going to have to already had that in the heart.
Correct.
That the nation forward.
Yeah, that's important. If you've ever, has anybody heard anyone ever say Judas was the most righteous man in the New Testament? I had a guy hit me with that just a few years out of El Cajon when I was up there in the desert. And what? Oh yeah, had he not betrayed the Christ, we wouldn't have the crucifixion, etc., etc., etc. That is just utter nonsense. That's the logic of an unstable mind. What Barry said is true. God takes these people and he uses them as they already are. Okay, I'm going to do the sermon. All right, it's here. I got it. It's building up. Give me 30 seconds. And the sermon on that is, so if we want to do what is right, if we want to be the salt of the earth and the light of the world, what we do individually, not collectively, what we do individually is we begin to train ourselves, equip ourselves to be the kind of people that God can use. We don't know when that opportunity will be or if it ever will be, but that's not the point. The point is that whenever that opportunity can come, I need to be a person who does not say, well, maybe I better start getting my act together and he might use me. It doesn't work that way. It's way before that is that we begin to train ourselves, equip ourselves, make ourselves the kind of people that God can use, so when that opportunity does come up, God can say, there he is right there. There's Bob. That's the guy. He's the man for the job because he's already proven himself. That's the idea of the parable. The man who is faithful in a few, he now will be faithful with many. So there's my sermon here. Whatever was going on with the heart of the king in Nineveh in the book of Jonah, those people changed. Another generation came that knew not the Lord. And that goes right back to Judges 2, God's people. When Joshua told them as he was dying, choose you this day whom you will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Well, as the scriptures goes on to say, the people were all faithful to Jehovah all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders that served with Joshua. But then the day came when all of those men were dead, and a new generation came that did not fear the Lord. There's the tragedy. I'm going to, Lord willing, make some points about that in the next few weeks. For those of you who were not here Wednesday night and heard Billy Perkins' invitation, he made that point that is so profound, that making sure that we are faithful, but making sure that we are preparing our children to be here in worship and their children to be here to worship. Because within just one generation, it can be gone, and has been in many cases. So I'll stop preaching here, but it all is with the same point. You get the idea. Habakkuk he can't believe this is going to happen. They come for violence. They scoff at kings, verse 10. And verse 11, then his mind changes and he transgresses. He commits offense, imputing this power to his God. They, in this exercise of their superiority over all of the peoples, there comes a mind change. They begin to believe their own press. They look at what they're doing and they see what has happened, and now their ego becomes so inflated that they are the God receive the things that is due the superior people. And so here is a description of this mindset of these Babylonians as they're going to come take the people. So that's it. Well, what's his next response? Here in verse 12, notice, I'm going to get back here, and I just pushed that in the wrong way, pardon me. His response then, no, verse 12, you are not from everlasting, O Lord my God, or is it a rhetorical? Are you not then from everlasting, O Lord my God, my Holy One? We shall not die. O Lord, you have appointed them for judgment. O rock, you have marked them for correction. You are of purer eyes than to behold evil, and cannot look on wickedness. Habakkuk's position is, no, you can't do this. I know what you've said you're going to do with Habakkuk, with the Babylonians, but these Babylonians are so bad, they are so wicked and so unfaithful, you can't have anything to do with them. You can't even look on them. Your eyes are too pure. Your mind is too holy. This cannot be. This is not going to happen. Here's a man who is already upset about the situation. Now he's turning on God and correcting him and said, you can't do this. Takes a lot of nerve. And Habakkuk is going to really get something here. And we'll get to that at the end of the book. He puts himself in some degree of jeopardy, but he is going to have one of the greatest payoffs in all of the ancient world of the Old Testament. He said, why do you look on those who deal treacherously and hold your tongue when the wicked devours one more righteous than he? Now that's the question that you and I have right now. We see the wickedness, foolishness, the evil, the godlessness, all of these things that are going on around us. And we are thinking, how long, God, will you hold your tongue? How long will you not say something? Surely you'll say something, you'll do something. But do something. Maybe when that time comes, we may have a moment of, not right now. How many people were ready for the earthquake Monday? I'll tell you a very brief story, and then we'll hear the buzzer. Dewey and I, with our small children, went up to Oregon, and we met with the Bott's daughter and her husband. Remember Keith Cox, Keith and Linda? They were up in Oregon, and we were traveling through there, and they were going to have a Bible study at their house. We went there, and Keith introduced me to 2 or 3 of his friends that he had just converted that were off the street, and they were trying to kick their drug habit. And they were genuinely sincere. I mean, I really enjoyed visiting with them and all this. And we're ready to start the class. And Keith asked one of the young men, he said, would you lead our minds in a word of prayer? And so we all got together in a circle, and this man, and as so often, the prayer of a brand new Christian is so pure. It's so sincere. It's so sweet. It's not scattered with all of the cliches that they learn later. His prayer was this: Lord, life is tough here, and it's really hard, and you know what's going on here. And we're asking you, Father, to come right now. We want you to come and deliver us from this world because of all of the terrible things. And when he said that, I'm sitting here thinking, I've got 3 young children. I've got a mortgage due. I've got my electric bill that I've got to go home and pay. And I have this long list of all of these obligations I have to get done this summer before our kids go back to school, and blah, 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 blah. And then as I was doing that, I thought, oh, how ashamed I am. Yes, come quickly, come now. And then shortly after that, that song was written, Hallelujah, Lord, come quickly. And I thought of that every time we sing that. You know, how many people can comfortably sing, Lord, come quickly? Really? Well, not that quick. You see where I'm going with that. The Lord's going to come quickly. We'll pick up there Wednesday night. Thank you. Right now.
I want to go to heaven, yeah, but I'm not right now.
That's right.
For whatever the reasons,
That's right.
It's a good illustration.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
You are. Here.
How you doing, young man?
Hello. Hey, Blue. Would you like to say something to the audience? You stick that microphone someone down. Yep. That's right. Oh, boy. I don't know. I guess they are. I guess. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They did. Oh, yeah.